What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the Gaelic Gridiron podcast. It is the divisional round of the playoffs in the NFL, and we are back to review the wildcard round, take a look at some of the results there, some of the results that we got wrong, blatantly wrong in a lot of cases. So apologies in advance if you had an accumulator on based on our predictions. What were you even thinking? Jimmy English, delighted to be joined by Twist and Kev. Boys, how are we getting on? Did we enjoy the games last weekend?
No, terrible
Oh,
all around. Just
no.
bad. But I was like, worst. It was literal worst case scenario. Steelers
Yeah,
didn't make it through, and the Vikings didn't make it through. I was like, at least if one of them makes it through, we all have something to cheer for. But
yeah,
good God, it was
Yeah.
a
yeah.
horse shit round.
Oh look, Steelers one and done as per the standard.
Hmm.
I'll back Sam Darnold, and it's like, oh God, what's happening over there? The LA Fires have burned Sam Darnold to the ground.
A
Yeah, it
lot,
was bad.
lot of tough conversations to be had in Pittsburgh with regards to the coaches, and Arthur Smith could be on the way out to another head coaching position. So
I'll pay for his cab fare to the airport.
we wish him Godspeed and all the best in the future, and give us a decent offensive coordinator, please. But we do have four exciting games this weekend to look ahead to the final eight, last man standing. We're not going to beat around the bush. We're going to get straight in and preview these games. First of all, at 9:30 Irish time on Saturday night, we have the Houston Texans, traveling to Arrowhead Stadium in Kansas City, Missouri, to take on the defending champions on the quest for the three-peat, Patrick Mahomes, who, by the way, has welcomed his third child into the world quite recently. So,
Look at
congratulations, Pat and
names.
Brittany.
Phenomenal news. Phenomenal
Yeah,
news.
yeah.
Stupid names. Did you see their names?
I didn't actually know, but I know
Don't care.
the
Don't
middle child
care.
is
Don't
called
care.
Bronze. So,
His third child is called Golden. The previous two is called Sterling and Bronze.
yeah,
Get a
yeah.
life.
I'm
The
sorry, but
less that
if
the
I,
less
if I'm the
about
kid
that,
who's
the better.
called Bronze, and I'm
I'm
like,
glad his house got broken into.
and the kid is like called Bronze, and I'm like, oh look, it's my brother slash or sister, whichever he had, called Gold. And I'm like, oh, you're the favorite, okay.
Anyway, the bye week gave him the opportunity to be there with his wife, but it also gave him the opportunity to rest, to get healthy, and for the Chiefs to prepare for the surging Texans, the visit. And the Texans, I think, took not only us but the entire league by surprise when they gave the Chargers a bit of a bollocking there on Saturday night, on a scoreline of, I think it was something like 32-6 in the end. It ended up, and I mean, Justin Herbert and the Chargers offense was just, I mean, it kind of spoke for itself as to why the Texans won. But Kev, I'll go to yourself first. I mean, do the Chiefs need to be worried about this Texan side? I mean, are they a little bit underrated, and does that suit CJ Stroud? I suppose being doubted, does it give them the edge, or do the Chiefs have much to worry about here?
It's hard to know. You look at the way that the Chargers played now. Let's be honest. Justin Herbert had his worst game of the year. Like he did, like it was an absolute circus out there. Yeah, he was just throwing picks for fun. So I don't necessarily know if it was as much the Texans getting it right as the Chargers just completely shit in the bed.
Mm.
Um, you
Which is
know,
surprising considering the season they had under John Harbaugh. Jim
100%.
Harbaugh,
Yeah,
apologies.
yeah, 100%. Look, they had a great season, and I don't know really what it comes down to. Like the edge rushers for the Texans really did put him under pressure, but he wasn't under that much pressure that he was just throwing balls to open men, like open Texans defenders. It was madness. So I don't necessarily know if it's something that the Chiefs need to worry about as much, but at the same time, the Chiefs haven't looked exciting or they haven't looked
Mm.
phenomenal all year. So maybe it will be a closer game. I really don't want to make a massive prediction here because we've been so off,
So
but
off.
it's so off. But in
Terribly
saying
off.
that, I do think that this is a game that it could be a bit of a sleeper game that could actually surprise a lot of people. I just don't know in which way.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at some of the results that the Chiefs have managed to eke out throughout the season, it really could go either way, Twist. I mean, considering who do the Chiefs really have offensively, weapon wise? I mean, it's like Kev said, they haven't been spectacular at all this season. Okay, Xavier Worthy has emerged as a decent receiver, but apart from that, I mean, Travis Kelce has been completely off boil. Trent McDuffie might have stepped up a little bit at tight end, but it could be quite a close game in that regard.
I mean, it could, but like you said, you alluded to, like, the Chiefs have won by a toe, by a block field goal, by a doink. All these ridiculous, like, scenarios that they've got them to 15-1 and the first round bye. Yeah, I mean, they've got Xavier, they've got Kelsey, they've got Juju as well. They actually do have a 1 and 2 receiver, and they have a number 1 tight end. And as much as the Texans front seven caused, like, Herbert all manner of trouble, caused them to throw picks left, right, and center, there was a little bit of pressure. Will Anderson Jr. is actually a really good defensive end, so if he is, whichever side of the field he plays on, if that offensive lineman's put on an island, he's going to have a long day, and Pat Mahomes is going to be scrambling for his life. But I still think a team that he's basically been off 3 weeks now, 4 weeks. He's had a month off, close enough, since his last snap in an NFL game. I know it's at home. I know it's Arrowhead. It's Mahomes. It's the playoffs. But you have to be worried about, not having that momentum. Like the Texans, we all thought they were going to be one and done. They limped into the playoffs. Yes, they were division champions, but they looked awful.
Yeah,
they
the AFC South doesn't really mean much if you're division champions of the AFC South these days, does it?
Yeah, that's like a
the Titans and the Jaguars.
But they limped into the playoffs. Everyone, including all three of us, wrote them off. Like the Chargers going to go out and whip their ass. And they went out and they put on a dominant display. And I think some teams perform well in the playoffs. The Chiefs are known to perform well in the playoffs. The Texans look like this year they've woken up. Something's happened. So it could be a case that with Stroud, popping off against the Chargers, taking that momentum into Arrowhead, it could be a lot closer than we think. It could be a bit of a shootout. And I think Pat Mahomes and co might actually be in trouble.
So, yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see how, like you say, the lack of momentum or the lack of game time for the Chiefs coming into this will have an effect. CJ Stroud certainly looked sharp. I mean, he has the likes of he had a even without Tank Dell, he still has the likes of Nico Collins. Defense played very well as well. Their defense, I think Derek Stingley Jr. had 2 interceptions. I think they had 3 picks total against the Chargers. So it'll be interesting as well to see if they're able to do the same to Patrick Mahomes. We're not gonna pick this one. I think we learned our lesson last week with regards to picking teams. Moving on then to say again.
I'm picking the Texans.
You're picking the Texans. We're gonna do this, are we?
Well, I am. I don't care. You guys don't have to.
I'll still make a pick. I'm just not going to be very confident in it. I still think it's going to be the Chiefs, just because it's the Chiefs. Like if they're going to stumble at any block, I think it's going to be the championship game, AFC championship game. I don't see them going much further than that, but I think this weekend they'll clinch that game pretty handily.
The Texans are the only hope of Josh Allen making it to the AFC championship game. Or even to the Super Bowl, I should say, because if he goes up against Patrick Mahomes, sorry, Bills fans.
No, I don't know. I still think that the Bills have the beating of the. I think if anyone can do it in this, can stop Patrick Mahomes and stop the Chiefs, even when they're not playing at full speed, it is Josh Allen and the Bills. And I do truly think that this is the Bills' year for the AFC Championship. Potentially, maybe not the Super Bowl, but definitely to get to the game.
Make your pick, coward.
Me, I'm going with the Chiefs all day. Just the way they've been winning by the skin of their teeth all season. Like you say, the little fine margins. I think when they had that field goal blocked against the Denver Broncos, I was just like, there's nothing.
Their Super Bowl, yeah.
Fate is on their side. Nothing is getting in their way until the playoffs. And yeah, I'm going Chiefs in this one. So we shall see how that transpires. Following the Chiefs and Texans then on Saturday, we have another intriguing matchup. No one had the Commanders getting this far in the playoffs or even to the postseason. But the way they've been playing has just been absolutely phenomenal, especially with Jaden Daniels in his rookie season. Look, we said it before, I'll say it again. Absolutely sensational And I think the Commanders are going to be perennial playoff contenders with the squad they have assembled there. The Lions, though, are another team, Kev, who are on kind of a date with destiny, especially after the NFC Championship game last year, where they obviously lost out to the 49ers. I think there's just nothing that can stop the Lions really, and in pursuing their fate and getting back to the NFC Championship game this year, even if it is the likes of the young kind of talented red hot team that the Commanders have there at the minute.
Yeah, I think the only thing potentially that could stumble the Lions right now is just the unfamiliarity of playing a team like the Commanders. Like they haven't played a system like uh the head coach there at
Dan Quinn.
Washington, Dan Quinn. That's the one. They just haven't played a scheme like that, and I think that it's going to be an interesting matchup because, again, I think they're like Dan Campbell hasn't seen that kind of aggressiveness that you
Mm,
see that he puts out week on week. I think that Dan Quinn is maybe not quite there with the Dan Campbells of the world, but he's very close in terms of aggressiveness, and
mm,
I think that's going to be really really interesting to see how the Lions actually fare up against a team that's going to get in their face and that's going to really like push them around. I think that this game is going to be a lot tighter than people might expect it to go because yes, it's in Ford Field, it's in Detroit. Everything would point towards the Lions being the pick here. But like I said, going back to look, you have to look at Terry McLaurin. How is he playing? He's absolutely playing out of his skin at the minute. So between the way Dan Quinn has his setup, I think this game could be quite an interesting one.
You mentioned Terry McLaurin there, and I mean we're all and NFL fans like ourselves of a certain vintage will have seen Terry McLaurin around for years and years and just effectively wasting his career and his talent in Washington without a viable quarterback. And now with a quarterback of Jaden Daniels' caliber, he's just been completely let loose and unlocked. And they're an offensive juggernaut. Twist. You look at then the Lions. They're going to have David Montgomery back on offense, which is definitely a boost. They're going to have some of their defensive players back. But again, I just think they have the momentum. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, they had the week off, but again, I just think that there's no stopping this team on the path to the NFC Championship this year.
I'm going to side with Kev on this. I think if any team is going to stop the Lions, it's going to be the Commanders purely because they're such an unpredictable offense. They're an explosive offense when need to be. Jaden Daniels, like against the Buccaneers, like that game, he threw no interceptions, and the Commanders didn't punt at all in that game. The last quarterback to do that was Peyton Manning in 2003 in the playoffs. Like that's the type of stats he's putting up. He's gone from like dipping off in the regular season to like walking into Tampa Bay and lighting up like that stadium and lighting up that defense and putting a show on and putting in the NFC on notice. I think just his skill and his talents alone, his ability to scramble, his ability to keep plays alive, just enough for Terry McLaurin to get free and get those big bombs, get those big chunk yards. I think if anyone's going to stop the Lions on their roll towards Super Bowl, it's going to be the Commanders, regardless if it's in Ford Field, regardless if it's in New Orleans, regardless of wherever it is, the Commanders have a shot to basically put the Lions down. They're the only real challenge they've had this season.
The Commanders have a very, very good running back whose name completely evades me, and I can't get onto Google. But that's also another element of their offense that should help them and have a bit of balance there. So it's actually interesting. There's a nice bit of symmetry to the Commanders' playoff run at the minute because the last team their last appearance in the playoffs was 2020. Their last playoff win was back in 1995. Not the Commanders, but the Washington quote unquote football team. The racially insensitive name. But their last playoff game appearance was 2020. They lost to the Buccaneers in that game, so it was I think quite fitting that they defeated the Buccaneers this year to make it to the next round. But they're for the grace of God, really, because it came. I mean, that game kind of hinged on Baker Mayfield's fumble, and then the doink that actually went over the crossbar. So again, it comes down to fine margins. So again, I think this is going to be a very, very tight game. But I still think that the Lions are going to just edge it out, purely because it's the Lions and they are on that path to destiny this year. And I think Dan Campbell just has his team so hyped up for this one. Like the close game, but I'm going to go with the Lions in this one.
I'm going to go with the Commanders. I think this is the game where Dan Quinn tries to gamble one too many times on a fourth down or a stupid play call.
Dan Campbell, I mean.
Dan Campbell.
Dan Campbell. Yeah, it's going to be this is going to be the game where he's going to mess up. He's going to call a stupid, trick play. He's going to go for it in 4th and 7, like with only being down by 3 or something like that, and the Commanders are going to make him pay. And I think that's just going to come back to finally bite him in the ass. So I think the Commanders are actually going to sneak by and take this one out. And I'm sorry, Lions fans, but your dream ends here. You're going to remain Super Bowlless again for another year.
Yeah, put the house on the commies. That's where we're going.
Take that to the bank.
Take that to the bank. All right. So interesting. Look, I think both those games on Saturday are going to be very, very close. Moving on to Sunday evening here in Ireland, and we have a very, very interesting matchup in the Lincoln Financial Field in Philadelphia. The Los Angeles Rams making the trip to the East Coast to take on the Eagles. And I'd say the Sean McVay side must have definitely taken issue with Dan Campbell's comment to Kevin O'Connell after that game, where he said, "We'll see you in 2 weeks," and use it as personal motivation to prove everyone wrong and run over the Vikings on their way to the divisional round, Kev.
Well, I mean, the comment itself made really no sense because it's like you don't know what way this seeding is going to work out. If the Bucks had beaten the Commanders, they would have been the ones playing the Lions anyway. And if we had beaten the Rams, we would have gone to Philadelphia. So like, there's a good chance we would have never seen the Lions until the championship game. So the comment really made no sense. Dan Campbell really makes no sense a lot of the time. So, yeah, look, I think that this game is definitely an interesting one. I personally see it going very much in the way of the Eagles. I think that they're finding their feet a little bit after last week. They definitely looked a little shaky.
Yeah, with Jalen Hurts coming back after 2 weeks with a concussion or 3 weeks.
Yeah, I think he still has a concussion, to be honest with you. But the way he was playing for the first kind of 20, 30 minutes of that game, he definitely looked shaky. But no, I think that they'll reestablish the ground game. Like, I don't think Saquon had a great game, to be honest. Like he had some big runs, but nothing like he's been looking like all year. And I think that just I know it's only an extra day, like you're only getting 1 day less of recovery, but that still counts at this time of the year with the Rams playing on Monday. That's a shorter week than the Eagles would have had. So I think just a couple of factors there just would lead me to believe that the Eagles are going to take this one.
There's a couple of interesting storylines and things to watch here, Twist, as well. You have a very good running back, or the best running back in the league, and the rushing king this year in Saquon Barkley. But a key part of the Rams offense as well is a very talented running back in Kyren Williams, who I've been a big fan of since he was at Notre Dame. But they also have 2 explosive receivers in Cooper Kupp and in Puka Nacua. Whereas on the other side you have AJ Brown and number 6. I'm terrible with names, but that's going to really annoy me now that I can't think of his name.
AJ Brown?
No, I already said AJ. The other receiver, Devontae Smith. Sorry, Devontae Smith. Apologize. So like 2 very, I think, kind of evenly matched here teams in terms of talent level, talent wise.
Yeah, but sure, when you're getting called for that being a forward throw to an open man, get out of here. Sorry, but now there was a whole load of shite going on in that game. We're not going to get into it now because I've griefed enough at this point. But
I will say, just on that throw, Belichick, when you're watching the
I know he called it. Yeah,
because like it's going to be called back. It's an offensive league. They don't care what defense. Like, they don't care what defense.
But like, look, if they decide, if the referees decide that they want one team or another to win, like that was a massive shift in that game. Like no matter what way you look at it, like that game was even at that point all we would have done is gone up and gone seven. I think we would have been up 7-3 or 7-0 at that point. That would have just changed the complete atmosphere of the game. You know, I hate that this is becoming a thing where it's like we're getting caught like these one or two calls against us that being the Vikings. It's like, but this could easily happen to the Eagles. It could easily
Mm.
happen to the Rams. And it's just like it just leaves you so kind of just sitting there like, what are we even doing here? Like, what am I watching?
Yeah, I agree. The referees in general, like in the regular season, definitely, but especially in the playoffs, need to be held accountable for bad calls. Whether that's penalising game checks, penalise them like not being like ref another playoff game until they
But the
complete.
ref didn't even go and review that play.
I know
He
that,
didn't.
that was New York calling in, like for that particular. But I mean, in general, like the standard of refing needs to be a lot higher. But like that was New York overriding the field. Like that was someone in New York just going, yeah, it's like incomplete pass. Let's keep going. Like that was a BS call, absolutely. But like with the Eagles and the Rams, you have to remember the Eagles are the number one overall defense in the league still. Yeah, the Rams tied the sacks, most sacks in the playoff game against the Vikings.
Yeah, because we gave up every feckin' sack on every play. Every snap was a sack. It was
Yeah, I don't know what
unbelievable.
happened to your
Jared
offensive line.
versus fumble recovery though, that was Kev. Even as a Vikings fan, you have to admire the just that entire play, that entire sequence was just
I think I'd gone to bed at that point.
he's going to be a force in the league for years to come.
But anyway, back to the Eagles. So I think with that defense, I mean, yeah, the Rams are coming in. They're coming in off like a win over the Vikings. They're going into Philly. They're going to Lincoln Financial Field. It's going to be cold. It's going to be loud.
Mm.
They have they've they've a little bit like time and to recover and to like get stuff sorted. They don't have to worry about being at home and dealing with the distraction of the wildfires in Los Angeles. But they are going against the number one defense. They are going against probably the best offensive line in football, the Eagles. So I don't see 9 sacks. I doubt there'd be more than 3 if they even get 3 sacks against Hurts. Like once Saquon Barkley gets rolling, and I think he will get rolling in this game against this like Rams defense, you're not going to see much of Jalen Hurts. I'd say Jalen Hurts passes, like completed passes, less than 20. I think the Eagles are going to steamroll the Rams on the way to the next game.
Yeah, I'm going Eagles in this one, definitely. I think there's no doubt in my mind that it'll be Eagles.
Eagles all the way around. I think I just don't. I just think the Rams have too much to do, and like look, they played fine against the Vikings, but realistically, the Vikings played like absolute shit. Like realistically, we didn't get out the gates at any point. So
No.
I think it's very similar to how the Chargers played. I think that you can't really give too much kudos to the other team. More so, how did they play so poorly? So it's going to be an Eagles win here.
Yeah, the Eagles all
Just
around.
as a note on that, if Sam Darnold does in fact end up leaving the Vikings, which is projected to happen now, and the Steelers are stupid enough to pick him up, I'm going on strike as a Steelers fan. I'm going to put it out there now.
I think that's who's better than Sam Darnold right now to take on the market, because there's nobody. What do you want to? You're not going to take one out of the draft.
No,
Like
we won't get one in the draft.
The only way to get someone in the draft is to trade TJ George and 2 first-round picks.
Yeah, well, we can trade George. I'll happily trade George.
But then, like, you're losing any wide receiver one they have. But look, that's to be discussed another day.
There's a whole separate preview podcast coming up later on in 2025 on this. All right. Last but not least, game of the weekend, perhaps game of the year, it is the Bills and Ravens in Buffalo on Sunday night, 11:30 Irish time. MVP title potentially on the line as a deciding factor in this one. Trip to the AFC Championship game to face more than likely the Chiefs. This is going to be an absolute showdown in Buffalo. I can't wait.
Barnstormer.
What are we thinking?
Yeah, it's gonna be an interesting one. Like with the way both teams have been playing, it's
Lights
really
out.
it's a difficult game to call, because it's like neither of them really have a weakness right now, or at least going into the last like 4 weeks of the regular season. and last week no one had a hiccup. There was no hiccups on either side of the like. Yeah, obviously the Broncos came out quick and fast
One
against the
touchdown though,
Bills, but yeah, literally one touchdown, and
and that
then
was
they were just
safe.
like right, come on, let's start playing ball now, and that was that. So uh, not that the Ravens like, I mean, the Ravens just kind of manhandled the
Yeah, let's.
Steelers a little bit, like
We didn't even
no,
try. Didn't even
we
try.
won't get it again. We won't get into it too much just because we could sit here and talk shit for the next hour about it. But you know, if you're looking at those two games specifically last weekend for both Buffalo and the Ravens, like there's really not a whole lot to critique on either side. I think that this game is going to be a game of nutrition. Whoever is fitter, whoever is healthier at this point, I think is really going to stand the test of time.
Whoever has the ball laughs, as they say.
I think so. Like, I mean, I don't necessarily trust Justin Tucker as much as I trust is it Bass there in
Calvas.
yeah, exactly. I don't trust Justin Tucker to kick from anything over 45 at the minute. So I think
Especially in the cold and the wind up in Western New York, and apparently it's going to be minus. What did you say earlier, Twist? Minus
minus
13
13
Fahrenheit.
centigrade, so 8 degrees Fahrenheit, minus 13 centigrade, with the
Yeah,
chance of snow. So that, like,
madness.
cold air massively
Mm.
affects kicking. Even if it's like there's no wind, it's just the air particles
it's
are,
like kicking a rock. It's
yeah,
unbelievable.
but the air particles are like denser together, so the ball doesn't travel as far. And as Kev said, it's like kicking a brick. Like,
That's the resident scientist
Yeah, I was just going to
twist here,
say thank you, thank you.
giving us our atmospheric insights there.
my
Thanks,
green
Twist.
screen,
Yeah,
and you can see the wind coming down.
yeah.
No, I
Thank
think
you,
like
Doctor
it is
Twist.
going to be probably like if it plays out the way it's supposed to play out in all our heads, well, all NFL fans around the world, this should be like one of the playoff games that's talked about for the next 20, 30 years. You
Should
have
be.
two juggernauts. The Bills have the one advantage of it being a home game. That crowd
Bills
raucous and
Mafia are going to
loud.
be wild.
Bills Mafia are going to be absolutely insanely loud. But when you have the Ravens, like last week against the Steelers, coming out and an 11 play drive for 85 yards, every single play was a rush and scoring a
Derrick Henry had
touchdown.
199 yards against the Steelers on his own. I think we let them have close to 300 yards total
And the
rushing.
opening
We
drive
bent over and just took it.
like Baltimore, like Lamar Jackson ran 5 times in a row with 5 designed quarterback pull runs. When you have someone like that on the opposite side of the ball who can match Josh Allen step for step, both are mobile, both can sling the ball, both have great running backs, both have really good defenses. It should be, I'm not going to say a barnstormer, because I think it's actually going to come down to 3 points. I wouldn't be surprised if this game ends like 7-10 or 10-13, like that type of thing.
I have to disagree with that. I think it's going to be
Yeah, I
an
don't
offensive.
see that happening.
It's going to be fireworks. You think about all the offensive weapons that these
Oh, I know,
guys
but
have.
look at the two defenses.
Twist. I usually let you go on your rants here and your big picks here, but you're way off here.
Well,
Unfortunately, I've just we're gonna set the story straight. This game is gonna be
Fireworks.
easily 40 plus points.
each or combined.
No, obviously not each.
These two offenses are going to march up and down the field and just score points for fun. But I do think it is going to be very, very closely contested. I mean, you have two of the best quarterbacks in the league, you have two of the best offenses, two of the best defenses, two of the best head coaches in the league. Um, it's going to be absolutely fantastic. In terms of picks, Twist, I will let you go first because I want to see what you have to say.
I think it's going to come down not to overtime, which everyone thinks it's going to be. Regulation, 3 seconds left. Bills line up to kick the field goal. It does not go wide right. It does not go wide left. Splits the uprights, and the Bills are going to walk away to the AFC Championship game, beating the Ravens 13-10.
Ooh.
I'm gonna say this is kind of a wild one, but I'm gonna say if the Chiefs win on Saturday, I think that the Bills are gonna lose. The Ravens are gonna go to championship game against the Chiefs. if the Chiefs lose somehow to the Texans, I think the Bills win, and the Bills will go on to win the Super Bowl.
Out of curiosity, what's your rationale for?
I know what you're going to say.
Well, I think that game is going to play a big part into the minds of both Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. I think both of them are scared to play Patrick Mahomes. I don't think either of them want to face him, but I think that the Ravens. I personally think the Ravens are more suitable and more ready in a lineup against the Chiefs.
Yeah, Josh Allen has that monkey in his back, if you will, of like constantly losing to Mahomes.
But they bet them during the regular season.
Yeah, but and that's a very, very fair point. I just think that the regular season to Mahomes is just it's fire in the belly up for him. It is, and it's just like he's just saying, "Well, look, you've beat me once. It's not going to happen again." He's just like, "I'm not letting that happen again."
Yeah, you beat me once in the regular season. I come back like I'm coming back in the playoffs. You beat me in the playoffs. I'm going home. I'm not going to let you send me home. So
Exactly.
I think yeah, the mentality, like I think that will get in Josh Allen's head. I do agree with that point, but I'm still sticking to my point: Bills over Ravens. And it's not going to hate the Ravens.
Going Bills as well here.
Bills year.
I think it is the Bills here. I think it's going to be a Bills Lions Super Bowl, and I think the Bills are going to come out on top. They've been waiting for so long. I mean, the Lions' time will come. I just think it is time now for Buffalo to get a championship. All right, lads. Well, look, plenty to look forward to this weekend. If anyone listening, and thank you for listening and supporting. If you do want to check out our divisional round preview over on Gaelic Gridiron, give that a go, and we will be back next week to hopefully have better success with our predictions. See how our predictions play.
Take them bets to the house. Take them straight to the bookies.
Put the Harry Power and do your accumulator for the weekend.
Bills 13-10. Put the house on that. And the car and the wife and the kid and everything else.
Yeah, don't actually do that. Thanks very much.
Right, disclaimer: we take no responsibility for your financial
decisions. This is not financial advice. I'm insane.
All right, boys, take a handy. See you later.